Hi, everybody. Welcome to another live stream. This is Lara from Complete Test Success here. So today we're doing live grammar support. I did this before. I did this a few weeks ago. So basically, I'm just going to get you to ask any questions you have about grammar and support you with it. So I haven't prepared anything in advance. I'm not teaching you any specific grammar, but what I'll do is just let you ask any questions you have, tell me any confusion that you have about grammar or any things that are causing you problems, and I'll do my best to help you with those things. So yeah, it went reasonably well last time, so I said we'll try it again. So this is only my second time doing one of these live streams based on grammar, so hopefully it's of use for you guys. Hey XIX, wish I could join you today, but I have to get up early tomorrow. Yeah, no problem. No problem at all. You can always watch the recording. Debeshis. Hope get some wholesome lesson, essential grammatical topic related to IELTS exam. So it's, yeah, I mean, grammar is definitely a part of the IELTS test. You know, it's tested as part of your writing score. It's tested as part of your speaking score. And having a better knowledge of grammar will help you to get more answers right for reading and listening. But it's not that there is specific types of grammar that are good for the IELTS test. It's just normal English grammar. So, you know, you wouldn't really separate grammar for IELTS versus grammar for everyday usage. It's just grammar. It's just English grammar. Hi, Raji. My exam is on 25th of this month. Just want to get better with grammar. Yeah, good. So if you have any questions about grammar or if you have any problems with grammar, just let me know and I'll be able to help you. Hey, Lewis, good to see you here again. Welcome. Welcome to the lesson. Okay, while we're waiting for questions to come through, I'll just let you guys know about my free live feedback lessons. So these are my free group classes on Zoom. There's a link to sign up there. So you can find it in the comments. You'll also find it in the video description. So those are my free classes. Sign up for that, and then you'll see all the schedule, the topics, the dates and times, the Zoom links to join. So that's all there. So those are free lessons as well that you can join using that link in the comments, or like I said, it's also in the video description. Okay, so first question here is from Lewis. I have a question. Should it be none of my children have blue eyes or none of my children has blue eyes? None of my children have. So none of them have. You know, I'm not even 100% sure because I think there are some grammar points that people often use incorrectly. It's none of them have. Yeah. There are some of those that are a bit confusing, like where you would think everyone sounds like a lot of people. So you would say like they have, but then it's everyone has. So with those words, some of them can be confusing. And you know, in reality, in English usage, a lot of people use them incorrectly as well. But yeah, have is the correct one there. There's any good plan to learn grammar from zero? I need plan because I don't know from where to start. Yeah, I have a strategy for improving grammar. So a big part of it, I think that most strategies don't include, is where you spend a lot of time reading and analyzing a grammar point. So let's say what you're going to do is you're going to start by finding out what grammar area your main weakness is. So like, you know, let's say, for example, your main problem was with plurals. So you're going to work on plurals and nothing else. So you're just going to find out your one biggest problem and focus on that and nothing else. So that allows you to be more focused, and it allows you to improve more quickly because you're not trying to do many things at once. Choose one area, and then you need to study the rules. I would recommend using the Grammarly blog. Grammarly blog is very easy to follow. So there's loads of great grammar websites, but the thing is, the way they've described all the rules, it's much easier to follow than, something that might be a bit more academic. Once you understand the rules, then it's time to start reading. So lots and lots of reading. But while you're reading, like, for example, if we said that plurals was your main mistake, all of your attention is on plurals. Like, why is that noun singular? Why is that noun plural? Why is that noun singular? Why is that noun plural? Asking yourself that question and really trying to figure out, like, based on the rules that you studied, trying to apply the rules to what you see in a newspaper or a book or whatever you read. It doesn't matter what you're reading, as long as, the grammar in the text is correct. So as long as it's something that's been edited. So basically, you're trying to understand the rules more deeply by applying them to the text that you're reading. And after a while, you'll get much quicker and more confident, where you're like, okay, I know why that's been used. I understand that. I understand that. I know why that's been used. So you'll understand why the grammar is being used the way it is in the text. Once you get good at understanding it in the text, it's time to start using it yourself, but start using it in writing first. Start using it in writing, write texts with a focus on trying to get plurals correct. And you can use, there's lots of grammar software to correct your grammar mistakes. So after you've finished, go back and see if there are any mistakes you missed. And if you did make mistakes, again, going back to the rules, trying to figure out what you did wrong. So we've gone from finding out which problem you have, what your biggest problem is, studying the rules, reading, to writing. Once you get very good at writing, you move on to speaking. And when you're speaking, you need to speak really, really slowly to begin with, so that you have enough time to figure out, what are you doing wrong? Thinking about, if you're working on plurals, where in the sentence will the plural come? Thinking about the rules, stopping and thinking about it, making sure that you're using the grammar correctly. So going really, really slowly to allow yourself get it correctly, to allow yourself to get it correct. And over time, what you'll find is you need less time to consider the grammar, and you start doing it more quickly without a conscious effort to do it more quickly, just from lots of practice. And eventually then it just becomes automatic and you're not even thinking about it. So those would be the steps. I have this written out. So I'm going to share a link with you here as well. One moment now till I find this link and I'll send it to you. Okay, so I've just sent you a link. If you click on that link in the comments right there, that will go through. So it's basically what I just said to you, but in a lot more detail and, more advice as to what to do during each step. So that should help you there. Ajay, grammar in mind is going to be very effective, but I'm really confused while speaking, like about tenses and all. So basically what you're saying is you can do it correctly. Like when you're writing, you know what to do. You're able to do it correctly in writing, but then when it comes to speaking, you're making mistakes. That's normal. Everybody's going to make more grammar mistakes in speaking than they would in writing, because in writing, you have time to stop and think. You also have time to read it again. You can delete mistakes and, fix them. So what you're saying is not just you, that's everyone. Everyone in the world is like that. So like I just said there a minute ago to the previous student, it's likely that you need to slow down. So just focus on tenses, go much, much more slowly than you normally would. You're not going to improve your grammar if you try to maintain the same level of fluency. If you try to speak at the same speed you normally speak, there isn't enough time to consider what you're doing. So speak slowly, allow yourself to speak slowly, and focus on tenses, thinking about, when did this happen? What tense is the correct tense to use here? Like really thinking about it clearly and making the correct decisions. So that's what you need to do. Of course, if you're using English at work, you're not going to be able to speak really, really slowly at work. If you're hanging out with your friends, no one's going to want to talk to you if you're speaking really, really slowly like this. So while you're practicing, it's something you're going to have to do in your own time, on your own, at home, alone. So you're going to have to do it by yourself when no one else is listening. So it doesn't matter what you talk about. I like to just find a list of old IELTS speaking questions, just use those. So that will give you the topic that you're talking about. So you're not wasting time trying to think about what to say. So you just read the question, start talking, but speaking slowly with a focus on fixing that one grammar area. That sounds like the problem you're describing. It sounds like that's what you need to do. If I've misunderstood your comment, let me know. But I believe that's the response that you're looking for. Hey, Sapreet, I'm doing good. Thank you. Good to see you here. Hi, Alec Beck. Welcome to the lesson. Okay, I'll follow these steps. Thank you very much. You're more than welcome. No problem at all. Okay. In the book, Grammar Intermediate in Use. Grammar Intermediate in Use. English Grammar in Use. Yeah. Okay, so I know the book you're talking about. I found the example sentence, I live near the station. It's only 10 minutes walk. Yes. Okay. Is it common to say I live near the station? It's only a 10-minute walk in every spoken English. This would be far more common to say this. It's a 10-minute walk. So at 10, it's only 10 minutes walk. I mean, people say that, but it definitely wouldn't be as common as this one. A 10-minute walk would be far more common. So, you'll always find less common grammatical structures, less common vocabulary. But as an English learner, you should be going for the one that people normally use. What's the language that's used most common in the English language? What's the structure that's most commonly used? That's what you want to go with. So yeah, even though they're both correct, I would recommend the more common one for sure. Raji, you're very welcome. No problem at all. Okay. So if anyone else has questions, go ahead. Okay, so while I'm waiting for questions again, I'll just share my one-on-one support with you guys. So what I have here is one-on-one corrections. So those are essay corrections where you'll send me essays and I'll correct them for you, and practice speaking tests where we would meet on Zoom. As well as that, then I have IELTS courses. So, that's the one-on-one corrections are basically feedback, whereas the IELTS courses are all inclusive where I'll show you what to do. I'll guide you more closely, kind of hold your hand through the process. Again, of course, it includes feedback, but as well as that, it's like the input, the guidance, and lots of back and forth between me and the students. So if you need one-on-one support, that would be a good option for you. and it would drastically reduce how long it's going to take you to get your IELTS scores as well. I think in a lot of situations as well where I've had students join my course where they're kind of ready to give up. They're you know, they failed the test a few times and they're just thinking like, I've had enough. I don't care anymore. I'm going to quit. And they give it one last go, you know, like to join the course and get that support. And then they're able to get their scores because they find out what they were doing wrong. So I've had students join the course who were in that situation where they're pretty much ready to quit. You know, doing it by yourself is definitely advisable if you can, but investing in one-on-one support, you know, that's obviously going to be better than just quitting and never achieving your goals. So if you're in a situation where you do need that one-on-one support, just click on that link, or also you can send me an email there if that's better for you. Math game, can you recommend any good sites to correct grammar? The one that I always use is Grammarly, the Grammarly app. I really like it. I like it a lot. The free version doesn't have a full, it doesn't correct all of the punctuation. The free version will do pretty much everything you need, but there is some punctuation like Oxford commas and stuff like that that it doesn't mark. But besides that, the free version is really, really good. There are other ones. I've had other students who use other ones and recommend them as being good, but Grammarly is the only one I've used. I've never had an issue with it. It does everything I want it to do. So I've never used any other ones, but I find it's very reliable. What I like about Grammarly as well is if you use their online app, it will say the type of mistake you're making. So earlier on, we said if you're trying to fix plurals, it will tell you like, you know, this mistake is related to plurals, this mistake is related to subject-verb agreement, this one is related to plurals, this one is a preposition mistake. And if your focus is on plurals, all you'll do is just look at the ones related to plurals. You can ignore the other ones. So it allows you to spend less time trying to figure out which ones you care about. So you can focus just on the ones that you're studying. Obviously, it shows you the correct version, but there's also a little information icon where it drops down and it explains the grammar to you as well. So it'll tell you which grammar rule you're not following. So, you know, it's really, really helpful in that regard. Lewis, could you please explain the use of collective noun, the old, as it is more usual to say the elderly or older adults instead nowadays? Yeah, the old, and it would have to be, the context would have to be set, you know, as in like we would be talking about two groups of people, the young and the old. Like if that context was set, using it in that context where it's very clear that you're talking about young people and old people in contrast with one another. But even at that, it's not that common, you know, because old is an adjective. So the elderly, older adults, the older generation, elderly people, those phrases would be far more common. The old, it's not wrong, but it's definitely, like you said, it's not as common as the other ones. I believe, does it matter in the IELTS speaking or writing if one uses advanced syntactic structures like complex modal verbs, complex passive, negative inversion, clause reduction, etc., or is it cumbersome and too pretentious? So cumbersome would be more if you're not able to use it. And there's absolutely no issue with being pretentious. It's not going to come across as pretentious. But the thing is, like, are you using these correctly? Would be the first thing. And are you using them when they're appropriate? Like, you wouldn't go into the test going like, okay, my main goal here is to use some complex modal verbs. Like you wouldn't do that. It's, if that's the appropriate language to use for the thing you're describing, go ahead and do it. But don't make it your goal to like, okay, I've used a complex modal verb. Now I want to use a complex passive. Okay, I've done that. Now I want to use a negative inversion. Okay, I've done that. Like, it shouldn't be a checklist. It should be you're trying to communicate and you're using whatever grammar is most appropriate for that situation. So don't put yourself under pressure to use, you know, certain grammar structures. It would more likely be you come into the essay, you come into the test, you see the question, you get your ideas ready, and you just communicate those as clearly as possible with the grammar that's, you know, most comfortable for you to use. The mistake that students will often make with grammar is they'll try to go beyond their ability. They go too far beyond their ability, and the writing becomes unclear, and that's problematic. So it's not a problem if you make mistakes. It is a problem if you make mistakes that are so significant that the reader, in this case the examiner, cannot understand what you're trying to say. So it's a fine line. Like, you make it too simple, like all basic structures, that's not good. You make it too complicated, that's not good. So the too basic will keep your score low. So complicated that it's unclear, as in like you're making mistakes that are so significant the reader can't understand, that will keep your low score. So it's a balance. Like, you know, you can't use too basic a structure, that will get you a low score. You can't use too wide a range of structures beyond your ability, that will get you a low score. So, you know, you will need to make mistakes. If you keep it too simple, it will be too basic, and that will keep your score down. So the goal isn't to completely avoid mistakes, it's to use as wide a range as you're comfortable with, and that will include mistakes, that's okay, but not beyond. If you go too far beyond your ability, you end up with just, you know, something that's unclear, something that has no meaning, and that obviously isn't the goal either. Okay, so if anyone else has grammar questions or grammar problems they want to talk about, go ahead. I'll wait another minute or two to see if anyone else has questions here. Hey, B. Winkle, good to see you here. I was reading your samples on task 1 of academic. The task was regarding the life cycle of the frog. There in the overall, you wrote that there are no external influences, so you were giving opinion. Means assuming things, but in one of your videos you said task 1 should have no opinions in it. Yeah, so what I mean is, like, sometimes you'll see a question where there's an external factor. So like you might see the life cycle of a flower where you see people taking the seeds and planting the seeds, so that would be an external factor. Or if you had, like, you know, bees are flying around where they're pollinating the flowers, that would be an external factor. Or if you had, you know, the sun shining down and giving the energy to the flower, so if the sun was in the process, that would be an external factor. So that's what I mean. Whereas in the process of the life cycle, you don't see any external factors. So you have the main process, the cyclical process here, but you don't have any things coming from outside. They're all internal related to that. So it's not an opinion, it's based on the information that I was given in the diagram, and I'm saying no external factors are shown in the diagram, and that's why I'm able to say that. Hi, Coran boy, welcome, good to see you here. Okay, so just wait another minute or two. If no one else has questions, we'll finish up here for today. I have plenty of time, so if you guys have questions, that's absolutely perfect. Go ahead and I'll answer them, and if not, we'll just finish up a bit early today, and I'll be back next week anyway. How many grammar structures or tenses should be included to get higher score? So it's not necessarily the number of structures, but if you're just using like a very basic short structures all the time, that's not okay. Or if you have 1 or 2 structures, like in task 1, it goes like, you know, the category A increased from this to this, category B decreased from this to this, category C fluctuated between this, and it's just the same basic structure all the time, that won't work either. So it's not that the examiner is counting how many structures you've used, but if it's repetitive and you're using the same one, that's not okay. So a variety of structures, but it doesn't have to be a specific number. As long as you're not using the same structures all the time, as long as you're using complex sentences, as long as you're using the correct tense for the correct situation, using modal verbs, all of that, perfect. So you don't need to count how many structures you're using. Just make sure that it's varied and that it's not too basic. Some people use comma before as, but as is subordinate conjunction. So if it comes after independent clause, the rules say not to use comma, but I've seen academic writing there's comma. The thing is about commas in English, we're not very, very capable with commas. Like English speakers in general, not like the majority of people aren't very good with commas. That's the truth. So if you're seeing mistakes with commas, that's quite normal. I see them in newspapers all the time. I see common mistakes in IELTS writing task 2 questions where they need to use a comma before while or whereas, and there's no comma. So, it's not unusual to find a comma mistake. Like if you can even find them in an IELTS question, that shows you how common it is to find comma mistakes in English. We are not flawless by any means when it comes to commas. Other areas of grammar, the average English speaker would be very competent in, but when it comes to commas, it's not at all unusual to see mistakes. Believe, much appreciated, Lara. You're very welcome. I'm always making the same mistakes. It's so exasperating. I use complex structures and complex vocabulary to my own detriment. It's such a common mistake. It happens so much in the IELTS test, whereas like people think complex is good. And you do need to use complex structures. You do need to use a range of topic-specific vocab. So yes, to a certain extent, you can't make it too simple, but also using the language that you can use correctly, using the language that you're familiar with, will allow you to have enough accuracy to communicate clearly. So it's not like you use very basic language, but you use language that is, in your mind, in your opinion, is easy. Language that you think is easy to use is language that you're probably using correctly. So that would contain complex structures, that would contain topic-specific vocabulary. And as your English improves, there will be more language that you think is easy. So for the most part, keeping it simple with language, keeping it simple with ideas is good, So like not pushing yourself beyond your ability is very, very beneficial. One simply cannot succeed without expert critique and instruction. Yeah, definitely. Winkle, is that frog cycle graph? If frog lays eggs in water, water could be cold or hotter. That is external influence. Okay. Does it say that the water is hot or cold? And it's not really an influence. It's like saying, like, I'm breathing air. That is an external influence. But in the grander scheme of things, like if you're talking about a frog walks on the land isn't an external influence. It's not influencing what happens in the process. It's there, but it's not an external factor. I think you're making it overly complicated. If you want to go down that road, you can. But, if the examiner decides that you're wrong, if you're including information that's not included in the graph, you could end up with a band 5 for task achievement. So, yeah, I mean, if you disagree with what I'm saying, it sounds like you think I'm doing the wrong thing. So, if you're saying that you're happier not to say no external factors and you think that could result in a low score, then just don't do that. I mean, if you think it's risky, don't do it. I recommend doing it. But of course, it's up to you to decide whether it is appropriate or not. And if you're 100% against it, then that's fine. I would say that's what you should do. Yeah, perfect, Believe. So just send me an email there and I'll be able to talk to you about that. Well, look, the thing is, you want to try first. You're right. You want to try by yourself first. I understand why you would want to try by yourself first. That makes sense. There's no point in spending money on a course if you could just go and do it without the course. So, it makes sense to try doing it by yourself first. But if it's not working, if the options are, spend money on a course and get the help you need or quit, those are clearly, one is better than the other there. Lewis, sometimes structures or example sentences in the book I use are not very commonly used today. What resources could I do to complement my grammar learning, especially for the speaking test? See, the thing is, like, written English and spoken English is different. Spoken English is less organized, less formal, less complex structures. There won't be as wide a range. So maybe what you want to do is focus more on, instead of reading, focus more on structures being used. Like, if you're watching TV show, watching videos, watching podcasts, like, what kind of language are they using there? Because they are two different. There's a lot of crossover. 95% of it's the same, but spoken and written English aren't exactly the same. So it could be that, you're relying on written English for your speaking, and you would need to listen to more podcasts and that type of stuff. I learned my lesson the hard way. We all do. No, I don't think you're wrong. I was just confused. Sorry, I don't mean to offend you. You didn't offend me at all, but it's like, that is what I would do. But the thing is, you have to be confident in what you're doing as well. So if you're saying, I'm worried that saying no external factors is going to be a problem, and you're not confident doing that, I would say, do, like, what you're suggesting isn't going to bring down your score. I'm not offended. I'm genuinely saying, if you don't trust that information, you should do what you think is best. Like, there are things. I had a student ask me something recently. It was like, I think they wanted to put an opinion in a body paragraph or something like that. I can't remember. But basically, they were saying something similar as you. They're basically saying, like, I'm worried that this would be a problem and I want to do it another way. It's like, do it another way. IELTS isn't so strict. You have to do it exactly like this. Like, that's why, like, if you go look at IELTS Liz, or if you go look at my materials, there are things that we have that contradict one another. IELTS Liz is a fantastic teacher. Like, everything that she says is completely, I agree with everything she says. I don't agree with her way of doing everything, but I don't see her giving advice that I said, that advice is wrong and it's going to reduce a student's score. Like, IELTS Liz is very reliable, but there are things that I would say to do that are different from what she says to do. So, it's just about choosing the thing you're most comfortable with too. As long as you're not going outside the requirements of the test and bringing down your score, you do whatever you're most comfortable with. Can topic-specific vocabulary affect grammar? No, it wouldn't. If you're using the wrong prepositions, then that would be counted towards your grammar score. But in general, no. In the past, by external, you mean is fully natural process? No, not that it's fully natural. It's that there are other factors outside the circle. So if you look at the frog lays the eggs. The frog spawn comes out of the eggs. The other thing goes to this. The other thing goes to this. So there aren't other, outside of the frog doing its own thing. There are no influences. How do examiners spot grammar mistakes? They would notice straight away. I mean, if you heard somebody make a grammar mistake in your first language, like if someone made a grammar mistake speaking in Vietnamese, like, you'd pick it up straight away. You wouldn't have to try and go, like, is that right? Is that wrong? Like, instantly, you just know that was wrong. So that's all it is. It's like, the examiners, they're not under pressure trying to hear the mistakes. As a native English speaker, they just jump out. At you. So it's not challenging, nor would it be, in your first language or in anyone's first language. Hi, how do I manage my time in IELTS reading? So when you're trying to improve your reading score, take as much time as you need until you're getting the required score. So if you need a 7, don't worry about trying to do it in 60 minutes until you're able to get a band 7 doing it slowly. Once you're able to get a band 7 while you're doing it slowly, like, maybe taking an hour and a half, if you start getting the score you need, then you try to start doing it more quickly. And And there's nothing else beyond, you know, like for true, false, not given questions, don't spend all day trying to find the answer when it's not given. For matching headings questions, if you don't understand the difference between two headings, you just have to guess. Don't waste a lot of time on those questions. And besides that, it's just move forward as quickly as you can, but not putting on yourself under too much pressure. If you go too fast, if you rush yourself, you'll make mistakes. So you don't want to go so fast that you're making unnecessary mistakes. Allow yourself enough time to really read what you're looking at. But then on the other side, it's, you know, it's, you don't have time to relax and take it easy either. So like push yourself to go as fast as you can, but not faster than you can. And after that, it's just about, you know, doing more practice and getting better at it. And if you're particularly slow at reading, you know, you can do activities online. Like there are websites to help you improve your reading speed, where you can paste in a text and it has this little, like, it highlights each word, like which word you should be on if you're going to read 60 words a minute. Or if you want to slow it down, which word you should be on if you're going to read 40 words a minute. And it kind of helps your eyes to stay where they should be, and it'll help you improve too. I asked that because, is there some room for mistakes in grammar? Yes, definitely there is. In one context, there can be several structures appropriate to express your ideas. So it's just curious if there's a pattern to it. No. I mean, any structure you're using, as long as you're using it like an appropriate structure and using it accurately, like beyond that, it's fine. And then after that, it's if you're just using the same structure over and over again, like the examiner would notice that as well. But no, like the examiner isn't very strict, like, that's not the structure I would have used. You should use the same structure I would have used. There's none of that. You know, it's not subjective. Is it appropriate? Is it accurate? That's completely fine. Hi, Abdul. Grammar is the foundation of language, like a building. Can't build a house without a foundation. It's impossible. The building will collapse suddenly. Absolutely. Grammar and vocabulary. Definitely. Grammar and vocab. Like, you're not going to be good at fluency until you have the vocab and grammar you need. Pronunciation is something that you need to work on as you're learning vocab. But again, you're not going to get good at sentence stress and connected speech until you have the vocab and grammar. So 100% building up on vocab and grammar first, and everything else has to follow that. Okay, guys, it seems like that's pretty much all the questions we have for today. So let's leave it there. Thanks to those of you who joined me. I have a live feedback lesson tomorrow. Let me just double check my calendar here to make sure that's right. Yep, so I have a live feedback lesson tomorrow. If you want to join me, click on that link in the video description. And yeah, I'll have another live stream next week. If any of you guys have IELTS tests coming up, obviously best of luck to you. And yeah, take care. Talk to you next time, everyone. Bye for now.